chapter of Zecharia Sitchin's 12th planet, titled Gods of Heaven and Earth, picking up on page 82. Although the Egyptians counted by the decimal system, their religious affairs were governed by the Sumerian sexagesimal 60, and the celestial matters were subject to the divine number 12. The heavens were divided into three parts, each comprising 12 celestial bodies. The afterworld was divided into 12 parts. Day and night were each divided into 12 hours, and all these divisions were paralleled by companies of gods, which in turn consisted by 12 gods each. The head of the Egyptian pantheon was Ra, the creator, who presided over an assembly of the gods that numbered 12. He performed his wondrous works of creation in primeval times, bringing forth Geb, or earth, and Nut, sky. Then he caused the plants to grow on earth, and the creeping creatures, and finally man. Ra was an unseen celestial god who manifested himself by only periodically. His manifestation was the Aten, the celestial deity, depicted as a winged globe. On figure 38 will be the next slide. The appearance and activities of Ra on earth were, according to Egyptian tradition, directly connected with kingship in Egypt. According to that tradition, the first rulers of Egypt were not men but gods, and the first god to rule over Egypt was Ra. He then divided the kingdom, giving Lower Egypt to his son Osiris and Upper Egypt to his son Seth. But Seth schemed to overthrow Osiris and eventually had Osiris drowned. Isis, the sister and wife of Osiris, retrieved the mutilated body of Osiris and resurrected him. Therefore he went through the secret gates and joined Ra in his celestial path. His place on the throne of Egypt was taken over by his son Horus, who was sometimes depicted as a winged and horned deity. On figure 39 will be the next slide. Though Ra was the loftiest in the heavens upon earth, he was the son of the god Ptah, developer, one who fashioned things. The Egyptians believed that Ptah actually raised the land of Egypt from under flood waters by building dike works at the point where the Nile rises. This great god, they said, had come to Egypt from elsewhere. He established not only Egypt, but also the mountain land and the far foreign land. Indeed, the Egyptians acknowledged all their olden gods had come by boat from the south, and many prehistoric rock drawings have been found that show these olden gods distinguished by their horned headdress arriving in Egypt by boat on figure 40. Let's take a look at these illustrations. Figure 38 at the top. So we got the wings, we got the two serpents around the sun, and in the text it was that's signifying Ra. Figure 39 in the text here was referencing Horus. As you can see, he's got the wings and the serpents as well, but more than Ra. And figure 40 was Sitchin talking about the ancestors of the Egyptians arriving by boat. A celestial boat at that. The only sea route leading to Egypt from the south is the Red Sea, and it is significant that the Egyptian name for it was the Sea of Ur. Hieroglyphically, the sign of Ur meant the far foreign land in the east. That it actually may also have referred to the Sumerian Ur, lying in that very direction, cannot be ruled out. The Egyptian word for divine being or God was Ntur, which meant one who watches. Significantly, that is exactly the meaning of the name Shumer, the land of the ones who watch. The earlier notion that civilization may have begun in Egypt has been discarded by now. There is ample evidence now showing that the Egyptian organized society and civilization, which began half a millennium and more after the Sumerian one, drew its culture, architecture, technology, art of writing, and many other aspects of a high civilization of Sumer. The weight of evidence also shows that the gods of Egypt originated in Sumer. Cultural and blood kinsmen of the Egyptians, the Canaanites, shared some of the gods with them, but situated in the land strip that was the bridge between Asia and Africa from time immemorial, the Canaanites also came under strong Semitic or Mesopotamian influences. Like the Hittites to the north, the Hurrians to the northeast, the Egyptians to the south, the Canaanites could not boast of an original pantheon. They too acquired their cosmogony, deities, legendary tales from elsewhere. Their direct contacts with the Sumerian sources were the Amorites. The land of the Amorites lay between Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean lands of Western Asia. Their name derives from the Akkadian Amaru and Sumerian Martu, which means Westerners. They were not treated as aliens, but as related people who dwelt in the western provinces of Sumer and Akkad. Persons bearing Amorite names were listed as temple functionaries in Sumer. When Ur fell to Elamite invaders circa 2000 BC, a Martu named Ishbi-Ira re-established Sumerian kingship at Larsa and made his first task the recapture of Ur and the restoration there of the great shrine of the god Sin. Amorite chieftains established the first independent dynasty in Assyria circa 1900 BC, and Hammurabi, who brought greatness to Babylon circa 1800 BC, was the sixth successor of the first dynasty of Babylon, which was Amorite. In the 1930s, archaeologists came upon the center and capital city of the Amorites known as Mari, at a bend of the Euphrates where the Syrian border now cuts the river. The diggers uncovered a major city whose buildings were erected and continuously re-erected between 3000 and 2000 BC on foundations that date to centuries earlier. These these earliest remains included a step pyramid and temples to the Sumerian deities Inanna, Ninurshag, and Enlil. The palace of Mari alone occupied some 5 acres and included a throne room painted with most striking murals, 300 various rooms, scribal chamber, excuse me, scribal chambers, and most important to the historian, while over 20,000 tablets in the cuneiform script dealing with the economy, trade, politics, and social life of those times, with state and military matters, and of course, with the religion of the land and its people. One of the wall paintings at the Great Palace of Mari depicts the investiture of the king Zimri Lim by the goddess Anana, whom the Amorites called Ishtar in figure 41. And we got figure 41 down here below. Try and get the border. As in other pantheons, the chief deity physically presented among the Amaru was a weather or storm god. They called him Adad, the equivalent of the Canaanite Baal, or Lord, and and they nicknamed him Hadad. His symbol, as might be expected, was forked lightning. In Canaanite texts, Baal is often called the son of dragon, or excuse me, the son of Dagon. The Mari texts also speak of an older deity named Dagon, a lord of abundance, who, like Al, is depicted as a retired deity who complained on one occasion that he was no longer consulted on the conduct of a certain war. Other members of the pantheon included the moon god, whom the Canaanites called Yerah, the Akkadians Sin, and the Sumerians Nanar, the sun god, commonly called Shamash, and other deities whose identities leave no doubt that Mari was a bridge, geographically and chronologically, connecting the lands and the peoples of the eastern Mediterranean with the Mesopotamian sources. Among the finds at Mari, as elsewhere in the lands of Sumer, there were dozens of statues of the people themselves, kings, nobles, priests, singers. They were invariably depicted with their hands clasped in prayer, their gaze frozen forever toward their gods in Figure 42. And Figure 42 down here at the bottom was mentioning, talking about, remember when Sitchin was referencing the smaller gods, giving praise to higher gods, and this is the depictions of them praising their higher gods. Who were these gods of heaven and earth, divine yet human, always headed by a pantheon or inner circle of 12 deities? We have entered the temples of the Greeks and the Aryans and the Hittites and the Hurrians, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. We have followed paths that took us across continents and seas, and clues that carried us over several millennia. And all the corridors of all the temples have led us to one source, Sumer. And that does the third chapter, everyone. Tomorrow's update will be the introduction to chapter 4, Sumer, the land of the gods, which I'm assuming, remember, this is my first time reading the book. It's a foreshadowing and answering, like, Sitchin backing up his claim that everything came out of Sumer, Sumerians, Babylonians, all the same people, all the same source, all the same message, just told differently. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. I appreciate you. I love you all. Have a blessed day. Stay light, everyone.